Everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder of Smart Hustle Media. Thanks for joining us for our exciting discussion today, all about how to grow your e-commerce business, sell more online. You're in the green room, as it were, and we'll start in about 4 minutes and 59 seconds. So while you're joining in and attending, feel free to get your questions ready. All hard questions go to Lee, Jonah, Daniel, and John Lawson. And we're going to have a great time. This conversation is brought to you hosted by Alibaba.com. So I know for sure it's going to be a great conversation. So the panelists and speakers, we're going to be here and we may chat a bit, but we're going to be good little boys and girls because we're live and as people start to join. So, but while we're waiting, Lee, how's your day going so far? And I know you're based in the northeast of the USA. Are you excited about today's broadcast?
I am in frigid Connecticut today. The weather is beastly up here. But yeah, no, I am so excited about today, not just to talk about the things I've learned, but to hear about these other guys who are just like miles ahead and amazing. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And we're glad you're here as well. I know you're going to drop some science on us about your emerging journey, but I think, listen, that's why we wanted to have you. It's a good mix of knowledge. And and I was excited when you were on our first call, like, oh, I love Alibaba. It's helped me so much. Oh my God, I love Alibaba.com. I was like, Lee,
you're like, I know them.
So, and Daniel, I know you're in warm weather. You throw that in our face all the time.
Relax. It was 68 degrees yesterday. So, I mean, I'm taking it slow here.
Okay, well, so glad to have you with us and sharing your story. I've had a good talk with you as well, dropping science on us about selling online. My longtime friend, John Lawson, I don't know how people confuse us, John, like when we're together, oh, did I see you before? I'm like, I don't have a beard and anyway, but John, welcome. Yeah. And thanks for being here and sharing your knowledge with us, Mr. Colder Ice.
All right. Can't wait, bro.
I know, and you're in the southern portion of the USA as well, where I love to get my shrimp and grits, or grits and shrimp, as Brent Leary always corrects me and says I say it wrong. So
shrimp and grits.
Shrimp and grits. So thank you for joining us.
Shrimp and grits.
And Jonah, I know you're in the beautiful Chelsea area of Manhattan. So thanks for being with us and sharing your knowledge and insights from Alibaba. What's going on in your world? How do you feel today? Anything in particular happened?
I feel great. You stole my script already talking about how great Alibaba.com is. So I got nothing else to say.
Well, you can talk about your car, your dogs, your walk this morning, what you had for lunch, or whatever you want.
In New York City, it's hard to have a dog or a car, but
yes,
things are going very well here in our Alibaba office, and we're really excited to be on the show with everyone today.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And everyone, thanks for joining. Ginger, if it's the Ginger I know, Ginger King, she sells a whole line of makeup and other things. I could be saying it wrong. Some people have corrected me and said, no, it's not makeup, it's mascara. So whatever you want to call it. So Ginger, if it's Ginger King, I know. Thanks for joining. Denise, thanks for joining. I think you have a fan there. Hi, Lee. And so Denise has joined. I think it's clearly a fan of Lee, or maybe she just likes Lee. So
hi, Denise. Is it Denise Caesar? I can't see who's joining. If it's Denise Caesar, she's awesome. She also has a line of goods. She's great.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining. It's not too late to forward the link and tell others that you're joining us live today. We'll start the live discussion in about 2 more minutes, and we'll probably begin to wrap it up at about 3:45 my time. Keep it nice and tight and to the point. Yes, Denise Caesar. So
yes, it is.
Thanks for joining, Denise. Denise, where are you from? By the way, everybody, all the attendees who are joining, where are you guys based at? Feel free to shout out your city or state. And maybe, if you don't mind, what you're selling. Tsuite.com. Interesting. T-Suit. Okay, thank you. So I got to check that out as well. It may be something
Boca Raton, South Florida, and Boca Raton, which is where everybody retires. So I'm looking forward to it. Health products, nutraceutical products, ingestibles, all the fun stuff that you take to feel and look better.
Absolutely. And Daniel, hold your thunder. That's the attendees. But yes, nutraceutical in Boca Raton, absolutely. But if you look here, okay, well, we have a whole sexual wellness, vintage jewelry, beauty products, tsuite.com, and more. So good. So people are joining and shouting out what they're doing. South Carolina, Los Angeles, or Louisiana. My geography's bad. I think I'm not going to guess. LA would be probably, I don't know. Los Angeles. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Shannon. So about 1 more minute, we'll start live and get into our discussion. And if you have questions, those who have questions, feel free. If Daniel's saying something you want to know more information about, hey, put it in the chat and I'll I'll break in gently and say, hey, Daniel, so-and-so wants to know. Maybe Lee's saying something. You're like, Lee, I'm starting out too. What things should I be aware of? Maybe John's saying something, and definitely check out. I'm going to give the panelists time to share what they're sharing, but John's just off the chain amazing. So you may want to ask questions about him. Jonah, hey, Jonah, listen, I'm going through this. What are the best practices? So we have a lot of people who are going to help us quite a bit today. So it's 3:05, and I think with that, we will begin. So hey, everybody, my name is Ramon Ray, founder of Smart Hustle Media. Thanks for joining us for this discussion all about e-commerce selling online. I'm excited to have my fellow panelists and experts joining me today. Briefly, you'll see Lee Hayes there, who has her scarf, and she'll share briefly about her journey, how she started, what she's going through, her success, her challenges. We have Daniel Rosenfield, who I met through Alibaba, and Daniel sells nutraceuticals and more, I'm going to say. There it is. And he's been doing this for a while, and the discussion I had with you, Daniel, was amazing. John Lawson, my friend, my fellow speaker, he's sold tons and tons of stuff online over the years. So he definitely is an author. And John Lawson, again, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate you being with us today. And Jonah Mandel with Alibaba.com, who leads their efforts in getting more businesses, I think. Jonah, you can correct me in a minute, on the platform, and definitely sees a lot who's selling and what's going on, and how he can help and serve small businesses looking to expand their business online. So Jonah, welcome, and thanks for being with us today. You're welcome. So listen, with that, I think we'll start right off. And I think really maybe we'll just do some quick introductions in your own words. I think when I say introductions, maybe I'm going to turn to you, Daniel. Compress as best you can. I know there's so much, but your story. Where are you today? Where were you? And then I'll call Lee and John, and I'll end with you, Jonah, on this portion, just to give us a nutshell of what Alibaba.com is all about, why we should care. But Daniel, unpack a bit your story in brief. Tell us about who you are.
Well, oh boy. It's deep. Started, I'm a finance guy, started in the mortgage business. I ran a mortgage company for many years. And obviously, as you know, back in 2008, there was a little dip in the market. So I was fortunate with a lot of good friends that are in the business of internet marketing and so forth that kind of pointed me in the direction of nutraceuticals. And really just from there, it's expanded. I've just built a nice business that really stemmed from, free trial offers now to big liquidation sale offers, and of course now the other dimension of Alibaba, just adding that to my business model is really amazing. So that's kind of where I'm at and what my company is.
I love it. Lee, give us a synopsis of who you are and your journey. You've been in business for a while and have an interesting background, but what led you to Cool Me Scarf? And please do tell, what is it?
So we were all talking about our ages before, being a middle-aged woman, experiencing hot flashes, I decided to solve the problem of hot flashes. And I created Cool Me Scarf, which is a lyocell scarf with a cool pack in the back behind the neck, very soothing. And I joined the world of e-commerce. And a lot of what these guys are going to tell you is, don't reinvent the wheel, right? Sell what sells. Well, I did what I'm not supposed to do, and I invented a new product. So I have the different aspect of trying to teach customers about a technology that they're not used to.
Got it.
But the biggest thing I've learned so far, and that's something that everyone out there can listen to, and that is, you don't know what you don't know. Trust me. The biggest thing you can do right now is listen to these guys, because they're going to say something and you're going to go, wow, didn't even think to go there. That's my biggest aha moment so far.
Awesome. And John, you and I have shared stages and these discussions before. I know you could have an hour show to yourself, but why don't you unpack for us, John, a little bit about who you are, what we need to know about you. And if you want, one or two things you've learned over the years, feel free to start with that right off the top. But again, glad you're with us today, but let people know who don't know who John Lawson is, who you are, and why you're here on this discussion.
I'm on here, I guess, because I've done, a lot of stuff in the e-commerce space. I started pretty early in the game on the old school marketing platform where you would do auctions without saying names.
Mm-hmm.
But, so yeah. I started that because I was going bankrupt and I had no money and I needed a way to get some cash. And somebody told me you could sell stuff on, eBay. Well, I just said it, but I mean, I started doing that back in 2000. 2001, I started a business. 2004, I ended up leaving my job. And 2009, I started teaching others how to do what we do on e-commerce. And that's kind of been my journey for a while here. And, you know, it's a pretty good run, but I love the industry and I watch the industry, not just from a seller perspective, but also from an analyst perspective.
Awesome. Well, John, we're glad to have you with us today, and I hope people read your book, Kick-Ass Marketing, I believe it is. So thanks for joining us. I know you'll share insights with us today. Jonah, thanks for joining us today from Alibaba.com. Give us a little background of what your role there is. And for the few who don't know, and you know, I've been with your team, we've all been reading. We hear Alibaba.com has or Alibaba, people know the name and has a lot going on, but help us hone in Alibaba.com. I definitely want you to underline what that platform's all about as it relates to this discussion today.
Yeah, so myself and my team, we're responsible for speaking with U.S. business owners, helping them better understand how to use Alibaba.com to source and sell products. Today, we are specifically focused on helping U.S. businesses use Alibaba.com to reach a global audience. And, you know, oftentimes, and Ramon, you touched on this before, you know, U.S. business owners and consumers hear the name Alibaba. It's very much a buzzword here in the States, but there is kind of a lack of understanding. So myself, my team, our marketing team, we are here to clear up how Alibaba.com can service business owners. You know, oftentimes we hear Alibaba is Jack Ma, Alibaba is the Amazon of China, but really we are a wholesale trading platform, and specifically today helping U.S. businesses reach global buyers that span over 190 plus different countries.
Yeah, good point. I think you're so true about that. And I think what is the anything in particular, is there any misconception or one tip that people should know about regarding Alibaba.com? And then John, I'm going to turn to you to unpack some things that you learned over the years, and we can get right to it. Insights, tips, and we'll go from there. But anything you want to unpack, Jonah, just that you've learned over the years that are like, Ramon, man, everybody thinks it's this, it's not that, or anything particular to Alibaba.com that we should know as well.
I touched on it briefly there in the opening remarks. I think that most U.S. business owners think that we are the Amazon.
Okay.
China. In reality, we are focused on, you know, larger wholesale transactions. Most business owners like Daniel would list, you know, a price range for their products. They receive an order request, and from there they would handle that request, not necessarily a shopping cart experience. It is replacing and digitizing the trade show experience.
I love it. So John, let's step into it and let's talk. John, you talk to Lee. Lee, as we know, has just started her business relatively. She's launching Cool Me Scarf. What are some of the things, John, that you see through some mistakes that people who are selling online that they kind of make repeatedly, and you wish you could just gently knock their, you know, no violence, that you could just shake them up a little bit.
Knock away.
And say, stop doing this, John. And I'm going to turn to you for the same question, Daniel. What are those 2 or 3 things, John, that you've learned over the years that, listen, here's what you have to do?
No, I find it interesting that she said she started a company creating a product, and you are now having to, what'd you say?
I've got to educate the consumer. Yeah.
You're educating the consumer on the product?
The product. People don't understand the product. Because the technology is different than the competitors that are out there.
And so you're the manufacturer of this new product, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
And so you're using So I'm curious, how do you use Alibaba for your product?
All right. So I'm on the other side. I used Alibaba as a source to find the manufacturer.
Okay.
And that was like, that opened my world, which is why I was so excited the first time I learned about Alibaba, was because as a U.S. individual to manufacture, it's a huge undertaking, and Alibaba's like opened that up. So that's my side of it, is using them for that.
Right. And you didn't have to get on a plane, did you?
No, sir. I did everything from the seat right here. It was fabulous.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think a lot of people don't get. It's like, yeah, Ali knows. A lot of people know about Ali for sourcing somewhat, but once you find somebody that's making something similar, then you can actually get them to make and manufacture your own product. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand in the e-commerce space. You know, it's you can have an idea, you can have a thought, and you can get people to start working with you on a product, get you some samples. You go back and forth, and you never have to actually travel anywhere. And the process through Alibaba is pretty simple to be able to discuss back and forth. Yes, there's some language barriers, but overall, I mean, I source a lot of product on that platform as well. But I also think what Ali is doing, I guess, around June, and you know, you guys can correct me and help me on this, is that they're really trying to open up the world market space by utilizing their connections so that you can have a product in the US and sell it primarily to the Chinese market, but to a whole lot of other countries right now. And so I think that's something not 100% new, but it seems like they're trying to really get a foothold in. And so I'm interested in that today.
Yeah,
awesome.
And John, one point on that, you know, I do want to clarify. You're exactly right. I think that, you know, originally our platform was built for U.S. businesses to find global suppliers with a heavy concentration of suppliers located in China. We actually administered a survey of all of our business buyers, being that we are a B2B platform, and the number one request was more U.S. supply. So specifically when it comes to, you know, food and beverage, agriculture, supplements like Daniel, our top buyers want to purchase from U.S. manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers. So, you know, the opportunity is definitely ripe for those type of businesses.
I mean, absolutely. You couldn't, I mean, you hit it right on the dot. I mean, you know, what I'm finding now is these international buyers are really looking for top quality American products. I mean, really, it's the flip side. You know, you originally thought Alibaba, oh, I'm going to buy Chinese products and international products. And honestly, a lot of my clients, you know, want American high-grade quality products, and they're willing to pay top dollar for it. And that's exciting. I mean, they're willing to pay for the shipping cost. I mean, it's expensive. You know, supplements are not cheap, especially supplements from the U.S. You know, they're paying top dollar for this, and they, you know, it's crazy. Like, you know, you get these huge wires from, you know, money from, you're thinking Africa, you know, they're buying, you know, I had a client buy, you know, 3,000 units from South Africa, and it's just crazy. I mean, it's an exciting time, obviously, to be a U.S. based seller on Alibaba.
Maybe I should get into e-commerce. I may just shut down. John, you want to buy Smart Alpha Media from me, man? And I'll come to, he's like, no.
No, be my sales rep. I need another guy here.
You know, another guy?
You give me a nice beachfront, you may have me. Daniel, listen, putting yourself in Lee's shoes when you were first starting out, walk us back, think that. What are 2 or 3 or 4 of the mistakes you made that you can think, Ramon? And again, I laugh and say it's silly, but you don't know what you don't know. As I think Lee said on the line or beforehand, what are some things that you're like, Ramon, this is what I wish everybody would learn from my mistakes back then that I wish I knew now? What are some things you can think of?
First of all, you know, the definition of an entrepreneur is a giant mistake. Your whole life is mistakes and failures. I mean, that's what an entrepreneur is. You know, my last 10 ideas were all, you know, failures, let's say. You know, it's, you know, look, I started with one product also going back 12 years ago. You know, I know Lee's in another, you know, business as well. You know, this is not her main thing, repertoire, but, you know, one product it's an uphill battle. And one product that you're selling that no one really knows about is an extremely hard to you know, it's doable. And of course, if you advertise and you get it out there, but you know, there's a lot. I'm just trying to kind of, you know, wrap my head around. I mean, there's, you know, the thing is, you know, what opened the doors for me, honestly, from the beginning, is getting out of the whole one product business model. You know, as soon as I got out of that one product and I expanded my product line, it was, you know, golden roads from then on, really, because I was just like you, selling one product, you know, a decade ago, and I was doing really well. And then, you know, all of a sudden the product didn't do well. And I'm like, well, now what am I going to do? I only have one product. So as soon as I opened that door of multiple products and then it was just a perfect symbiotic relationship with Alibaba. Then Alibaba came at the right time. They said, oh, okay, you have 200 products. And now it's like, it's beautiful because somebody's always buying something. You know, you have one product, you got to wait around. You got 250 or whatever, however many products you have. You can, you know, the great thing about Alibaba on both sides is you can create as many products as you want. You know, sky's the limit. You know, I think one thing you had mentioned to me, Daniel, not to cut you off, but to underline this, you talk about bundles, similar products, similar things, but different. Is that part of the kind of the experience as well? Listen, I mean, if somebody had told me this 3 years or 4 years ago when I initially set up with Alibaba, I probably would have saved 50 grand in work. I mean, the thing that changed my business model specifically, and not just limited to Alibaba, were the bundling. You know, as soon as I bundled, you know, my apple cider with my, you know, keto and put it together, I got way more responses. I mean, it was like infinite amounts. And again, I had mentioned that not only must you have bundles, but you got to have high res images. So you got to make sure the images are, you know, the second thing I did was create beautiful images with these bundles, and it was like attracting flies to crap. You know, it was just beautiful. It's like never. And you know, so I'm, you know, you got to have your high res stuff. I recommend video also, which I'm now adding to my Alibaba pages, and also my, you know, people are visual now. They want videos more than ever. So and I also had mentioned that you need to create a mini site. It's a must on Alibaba. I noticed as soon as I created my mini site, and I spent about, I don't know, you know, Alibaba, I used one of the Alibaba, you know, partners, and you know, about 3 months ago, I upgraded my mini site, and it's just, the traffic is just pouring in every day. I told you I'm getting about 20, 30, you know, hits, you know, messages. So you know, those 3 key things you do will definitely change your business.
So may I just ask a question?
Please, of course. I was responding to somebody who was, by the way, I just want to say, hey, to Vitri. Thank you, Vitri. You're welcome. I was going to type my message, but we're glad that you're here and excited. So glad you're here as well. Please ask the question, Lee. And after you ask that, Lee, I want to know, even though you started, what lessons have you learned? Share your lessons that, wow, Ramon, I've been on this journey, but here's what I've learned. But please ask the question.
All right.
Absolutely.
But my question to Daniel is, so for anybody who's got a single product like me, so this is a me or anybody question, I have a very specific target market. Do you recommend getting other products within that same market?
Absolutely.
Like focusing on that market and then growing from there?
Yes. In fact, I would even recommend maybe attaching it with an anchor product. Maybe there's another product you have that's super popular, or something you can partner with somebody else that has a product that's perfect for your niche. You know, another product for women. What is this for women in their?
You know, supplements are really good for women.
Well, we talked about, not all joking aside, I do have some great you know, I sell, my women market is you know, 70% of my business, but you know, definitely partnering with either one of your own products or somebody else where they have an anchor product, and then you have your scarf attached with that anchor product to build momentum, and then you can kind of, you know, sell it on your own. But definitely, it's just selling a scarf by itself, I feel like in the beginning might be hard. You know, maybe, again, finding somebody and partnering with something cool that you can sell with it, I think is your next step.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. And so, Lee, thank you. It's very, listen, we're keep the questions going. I see questions in there, and I'm going to answer these. And by the way, Alibaba team, if anybody's online and you want to answer some of these ahead of me, feel free. Some questions on there that you may want to take offline. But Lee, listen, so what have you learned, Lee? Tell us what you've learned in your experience. We all learned something. What can you share with others who are just starting out? 2 or 3 things that you're saying, here's what I've learned from this.
Okay, you know, well, the first thing I learned is someone said this to me, and I went, oh my God, that's the mistake I'm making. So let me share. And that's when you start marketing. And I'm sure, you know, John can speak to this. There's message, right? There's market and there's mode. And all of us newbies focus on mode. I need to get on social media. I need to get to Alibaba. You start just throwing it places, but you don't think about your message and you don't think about your market. So I think beginners, you start with the tactics and you forget about the strategy. And you need to stop and say, no, here's the overarching strategy. Here's my message. Here's my market. And oh, by the way, this is how you get it out there. So I think I started that backwards, and I think a lot of people do.
I love that. That's very important. And John, listen, you are a marketer. And then, Jonah, I'm going to turn you back to hear what things you're seeing on the platform that we need to know to help with this part of the discussion, especially for new people, Jonah. But John, addressing Lee's point, and again, we could talk hours about this, but I know, Daniel, you're a marketer, but John, you are a marketer, digital marketer. You do Facebook ads and all this. Can you address Lee's point? She has so much to do, John. She just started. She's going crazy, but the marketing is important. What can you help her representing everybody else who's new understand about this?
Yeah, you know what? When it comes to marketing, I think people want to jump in and just start marketing and just start buying ads or start pushing, push. And I think the first thing you really need to do is just listen. You need to find out where people are that are either using similar products or using your product, and start listening to how they talk about the product, what they're doing with the product, how they're using it, what are their issues. Another place that you want to go are to these places where people are leaving reviews on other people's similar products. You want to see what are the good reviews and what are the bad reviews. Bad reviews are awesome because when they say, well, I don't like this product because it does X, Y, Z, that's an area where you can improve your product to be more compatible or competitive in the market space. So make sure you listen to other consumers and then inquire from your own customers, because they have ideas that will lead you in to, like he said, other, verticals that you can sell into. So I would have never thought about selling, let's say, hats if I didn't listen to people that were saying, hey, I like to have my hat to match my t-shirt. I'm like, really? Okay, well, maybe we can sell hats that match the t-shirt. And all of a sudden we're selling hats, and oh yeah, I got to have my kicks match my jacket. Oh, really? Wow. So I got to make sure I got shoelaces so they match the kicks.
Right.
I get it. So there's a lot of ways that just listening will give you ideas before you ever jump in to, pushing. Start listening, and then you can use all of those things that people are saying for marketing.
That's awesome. And don't forget, these are gems coming here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to tweet these out, share these out on Facebook and Twitter and all the platforms, and share what's happening here. Jonah, what are you seeing, Jonah, as people start with Alibaba.com, and whether it's Alibaba.com, the platform itself, or in your experience, Jonah, overall, platform agnostic is fine too. What are some of those beginner things that you like, Ramon? This is all the questions we get, and I wish people would learn this, 2 or 3 things that beginners, when they're first trying to sell, that the biggest support questions, or as it were, that they're doing wrong that can help them as they're starting out.
Yeah, definitely. So I think on a macro level, a lot of US-based manufacturers, in fact, 60% have no dedicated B2B e-commerce channel. So we have a lot of B2C sellers that might be set up on a platform like a Wish and Amazon. They come over to an Alibaba, and as Daniel mentioned before, you might not take the time and effort to set up a mini site, an Alibaba website that explains your brand. You might kind of set and forget your advertising campaigns on our platform. You might not look into the finer details on your product listing score. So being that we are a wholesale B2B platform, sellers on our platform need to think of this as a wholesale trading platform, and there is some legwork required when you are loading products into the system to make sure you're using high resolution photos, and then looking at the data, right? So as John touched on before, you are linking keywords to individual SKUs. Before you start pushing advertising, we have organic placement on our platform. Look at the keywords that you link to your SKUs that show up in organic search, and which of those keywords are turning from from impressions into clicks into inquiries, and then double down on those keywords and advertise on those. So I guess the number one recommendation I would give on the marketing side of Alibaba is, utilize some of our free advertising tools to see what keywords are converting into orders, not just impressions and clicks, and then double down on those.
That's powerful. Thank you for that. I'm curious, another question that came in here, Jonah and John and Daniel and Lee. And Daniel, I'm going to turn to you for this, is the aspect about fulfillment and shipping. Again, a huge question. The internet's full of options and solutions. So, you can't answer it, probably do it justice. But I think it's a very valid question. And maybe I should probably turn it to Jonah to talk Alibaba specific. But Daniel and John, can you give people just an overview of shipping fulfillment? And it's broad, so answer it however you want. Then Lee, I'd love to know what you're doing. When people hit the button, just give us a taste of what you've learned. But Daniel?
Well, I got one word. The key word of the year for Alibaba is DHL Express, because that is the best carrier when shipping internationally. You're shipping internationally, it's a 3-day, they're express. It's almost like USPS or UPS. I mean, they get it. You can send it to Nambia or I've sent stuff to Iraq to a soccer stadium, got there in 3 days.
Nice.
DHL Express is the king. I typically use them for international shipments almost all the time. And now I'm working with some other partners of mine. I'm getting into the drop ship business as well, and some of my local e-commerce platforms to ship internationally. And I'm working out a partnership with DHL Express as well. So definitely that's something that's a must-have,
right. No, I appreciate that. John, what are you seeing? Again, it's a big question, and there's a lot of variables, but at a high level, any tips, thoughts? Because I think it's a valid question on shipping. I got my stuff. I'm excited to get my whatever I got in my warehouse or whatever. Now, how do I get it? Either to Iraq or just how do I get it from New Jersey to Denver? What do I need to know?
I mean, I'm taking notes on DHL Express because we don't do heavy stuff, you know, internationally. Most of my international is less than 2 pounds.
Okay.
You know, most of it under 1 pound. So United States Postal Service is still I don't want to call them the king, but they are the king in terms of hard to match.
Track outside the United States? Do they offer tracking?
They do offer tracking, and like I said, under one pound, nobody can beat them because they've just got a game that they're playing, and they've got the inside on that, you know. So when it comes to small packages, that's what I use. Now, I mostly, you know, we import our products and then we resell. So we also use FedEx, but I'm going to definitely start looking at DHL since you got the 3-day, because FedEx is not taking me 3 days guaranteed. So that's some good stuff. But yeah, FedEx and UPS, you know, and the United States Postal Service, they all are in this game. And if you are doing a lot of volume, you start calling those guys up and tell them, hey, I'm working with so-and-so and such, and I've got this number. Can you beat it? And I guarantee you they'll take you out to lunch.
Oh, I'm gonna do that too. So if you mention Jonah's name, will they like drive you, chauffeur you, like to the Lee? One of the questions here from Denise, and I think it's a very valid point. This is valid for business overall, is that a lot of this is overwhelmingly, you know, again, business overall is challenging, but you're trying to make this, you got to make it, ship it, warehouse it. I'm overwhelmed, and I'm a business owner, but I'm not directly into e-commerce. What have you learned, Lee? What are you envisioning as your company grows, as maybe you're at where Daniel and John have been, as your company grows, as you're getting your 2nd, 3rd, and 10th product, you know, how are you anticipating managing the overwhelmingness of it? And I'd love to know, Jonah, what you're telling your sellers and others to help them with this as well. But Lee, what do you anticipate this overwhelming aspect that it can be? How do we do this better and grow our business?
Well, you know what's interesting is when I started this business, having, you know, it's not my first rodeo, right?
Sure.
I'm a middle-aged woman, so I've done a lot of business things before. I've been entrepreneurial before. And I started the business with the thought of, how do I scale? Not how do I do one product, but how do I scale? So I'm just absorbing all these things. It's tough, right? I started right by putting my big girl britches on, and I started with a big distribution center and all of that. It's not that easy, right? So I've already canned my first distribution center. I've got to work on another one now because they were horrible. But these are things you learn.
Right.
So again, my advice is, and I have a business coach, right, who has been successful before. And again, it's, you don't know what you don't know. And every time you fall down, which I think Daniel said, right, there's failure after failure.
Yep.
So indeed, I'm looking at this business as, how can I scale? Every time I do anything, it's how can I scale? So, you know, my big focus, right, is focusing on my market and trying to get the market under control. Because then I'd love to have multiple products. If once I have a strong brand, and I'm, you know, a big focus of what I'm doing right now is just brand.
Sure.
As you know, we've talked about that, right? A certain age. That's where I'm starting. So I'm trying to start strategically.
Got it.
I've made tactical mistakes, but I'm trying to start with the big picture in mind. And how do you deal with the mistakes and the pressure and all that? Oh my God. 14 hands makes a really nice wine. It's inexpensive, so you can drink a lot of it. There's my tip.
I love it. Jonah, I'm a firm believer of outsourcing as much as you can to companies such as Alibaba, you know, services that you can hit a button and they can do it. Anything that we need to know about the Alibaba.com platform that can help with this overwhelmingness. And again, starting a business is hard, it's challenging. Growing it is difficult. That's a given. I don't need to say it, but I will. We know that. But are there any like ninja things on Alibaba.com that are like, hey, listen, we can take care of that for you? Anything we need to know about that for those who feel a bit overwhelmed to ease that?
Yeah, so before I get into the ninja tips and tricks, I think that Lee touched on an important point there. So she mentioned before she gets into, you know, multiple SKUs, she really wants to focus on finding out who her market is, right? So step number 1 on Alibaba.com, we have a feature called geo-targeting. So you don't have to fill every inquiry or order request that comes through the platform. So if you receive an order request from somebody in Dubai, and you don't necessarily feel comfortable shipping product to that country or region, you can say, hey, you know, thank you, Mr. and Mr. Business Owner. At this time, we're not shipping product there. So that's step number 1. You can geo-target based on where the buyer is coming from to list your SKUs. On the shipping front, we do have a solution today for business buyers. We call it Alibaba Logistics, not super creative name there.
That works though. That's pretty cool.
Right. Where we offer LCL and FCL, so less than container load and full container load shipping options. So being that we are a wholesale marketplace, which you've heard me probably say 5 times in the 30 minutes we've been on this call, these are larger orders. So the buyer solution today is less than container load or full container load. So if a business buyer submits an inquiry to a seller, the buyer has the option to use Alibaba Logistics. And we simply pass our enterprise discount on to all of our business buyers. So that's LCL, FCL. And on the seller side, today you can list your products as EXW or FOB. When you list it as EXW, you're essentially responsible as a seller to get your products to the local port, and then the buyer has to transport it from the port to their place of business. So you are transferring the responsibility onto the business buyer. And full transparency, we did just hire the head of international logistics from Pitney Bowes. We will be baking in a solution for sellers where they can click a few buttons and they can kind of take the shipping part of the transaction under their control.
That is awesome. And I think that may answer the question. That seems like, I think you answered it. That does ease a lot of the headache, I think, that people can do. So knowing these functions are available, I think is powerful.
Yeah, no, this is a happy dance because freight was a nightmare. And I didn't use Alibaba for that. I wish I had known.
Awesome. That service and product, it launched a little less than a year ago. So it may not have been there in the early days when you started using Alibaba, but we're constantly iterating on it and making it more user-friendly.
So can I ask you a question, Jonah?
Yeah, of course.
So what's the fee structure for Alibaba?
The fee structure on Alibaba Logistics?
No, just in general. I sell a product for $10. How much does Alibaba take?
Good question. So today we have no take rate for U.S. sellers. So we do not take a percentage of the transaction. We do have an annual membership to be a seller on Alibaba.com. We have 2 different packages, premium, basic, also not super creative names. The premium is $41.99 and the basic is $23.99. So $4,199, basic $2,399. We built you a website, as Daniel referred to, a mini site. We assign you an account manager. We help you with your search marketing solutions. Or John, we might bring you in to offer some marketing tips and tricks to our sellers. But yeah, those are the 2 different packages.
Okay, fantastic. That's good info.
And by the way, any cross questions, keep the questions coming from our panelists. It's not, just me. We have, a little bit more time to go. Daniel and John, I want to turn to you. We talked about some basic things. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a summary of this. I've interviewed Lee, interviewed Daniel. John has some content out there. We're going to bundle all this and provide this to you. Keep the questions coming. By the way, too, there's a hand raised from Melissa. It could have been an accident, Melissa, but if you have a question or need help, feel free to post it in the Q&A. I am watching that to ask questions as they're going along. Daniel and John, I'll turn first to you, Daniel. Let's talk to those who are a bit mature business owners. They've been in business 5 years, 6 years. They're looking to grow. They're maybe at where you are or a little behind. What things are you guys doing now, Daniel and John? And I know, John, you're an analyst and doing some other things here, but what are you doing, Daniel? What are you doing, John, to scale your business, even to get you to the next level? You've reached a certain level. What things should we know where you're headed at? Maybe for next year, maybe things that are on your whiteboard. Daniel, can you share some of that with us as a mature business owner? What things are you looking at now?
Well, obviously, initially I started in the wholesale side of the business, and then gradually over the last few years, I got into the e-commerce side where for example, I'm selling on Wish. I'm one of the largest sellers on Wish and Overstock and so forth. And then obviously what has helped me, increase my business by about 30% is my Alibaba relationship and getting international. And I think I had mentioned this to you when we had our initial interview. It's like being at the best way, because I used to, I had a few, I used to do a lot of conventions, and I would have my company there and so forth. And Alibaba is like being at 5 conventions at the same time. And I realized, why spend $5,000-$10,000 doing conventions when I basically can spend $4,000 for the year and have, have 2 convention loads of business over the weekend. I'm like, what the hell am I doing conventions for anymore when I have Alibaba business coming in? And the next evolution of your business, if you're, relatively experienced and your product line and you have products to sell, is definitely going international. And Alibaba is the perfect platform. So far, there's nothing better internationally that I've seen that doesn't even compare. I mean, and it's just that really adds the dimension to your business. I mean, it's very black and white. I mean, there's no hidden, 10-step system you need to do. It's very easy. Sign up with Alibaba, make more money. Take your time, build up your SKU list, make money, save money, and stop spending on conventions and other, forms of advertising that are bleeding you. I mean, I think that's really it. That's the evolving way of your business and how you should expand.
Well, thank you. John, what are you saying again for the mature business owner? I won't repeat the question, but what are you saying for those who are there's doing it, scaling? What should they be knowing? What should they do? What are you doing?
So a lot of guys, right now, private label, everybody's private label. So a lot of people are building their own private brands. Let's call them private brands. And I think if the next step is once you've got a private brand on a marketplace, it's really just like he was saying, going global, going multi-channel, really start taking in all of the opportunity that your brand presents to you. Because once you've got a brand and it's become established and people have affinity for that brand, that's the time when you're able to actually start really expanding, because people want US goods. There are people right now that are taking goods made in China, branding them in the US, and then selling them back to China. Because it is.
And John, let me just add to that, because I mean, I can give a dissertation just on private labeling. And basically, private labeling found me. When I first started selling on Alibaba, my intention was to sell in bulk. I want to sell 1,000 units of a product. And then I started these customers in other countries are saying, I can't afford 1,000 bottles. I can only afford 100. I'm like, well, I don't want to wait. And I was smart. And then they started saying, I want to buy 100 bottles, but I want to put my label on it. I'm like, what? And so, adding to your thing, so private label is a huge business right now, international, and it's really not the 100 bottles business I'm looking for. It's the rebuys. It's the 1,000 bottles they're going to order now that they ordered the 100. So once you grab that niche, it's huge. So like you said, private label is huge on Alibaba.
It's huge.
Everybody wants to be a business owner. Everybody wants to have their own bottle, business.
And the deal is, Daniel, if you're not doing this, man, not only are you giving them the products, but if you give them some, turnkey marketing stuff to help them grow their business, so you become, on the same side of the ball with them, because the more their business grows, the more your business grows.
You're both vested. Absolutely. Could not agree with you more.
Yeah, and one important point on that, John. So another service here, to another Alibaba plug, where, Daniel mentioned there was a business buyer that couldn't afford to place an order for 1,000 units. We have a service called Alibaba Pay Later. We'll actually loan buyers money on our platform. So if they want to drive down the cost per unit, a seller like Daniel will be like, hey, I can't offer it to you at $10 per unit unless you order 1,000 units. Alibaba steps in. We loan the business buyer money. They can drive down their cost per unit. They can increase their margins selling on different platforms. And then Daniel, the seller, is happy because he just sold 1,000 units versus 500 units. So that is a service we provide to buyers called Alibaba Pay Later.
Wow.
And your naming is pretty impressive, I must say.
I think that was a little better than Alibaba Logistics.
Hey, Lee, as you're looking to grow Cool Me Scarf and hearing the things that Daniel and John are talking to us about, what's your future? What's your board? Of course, there's some things you need to do, but is this I was going to say, is it exciting to you or not? But I'm not going to ask that question. But where are you looking forward to grow in the future? Where do you see Cool Me Scarf? Could we see Equinox Cool Me Scarf, or maybe not even the name Cool Me Scarf, and Equinox is selling it? Where are you going to go? Where do you see 2-3 years from now, Ali?
In a perfect world, 2-3 years from now. So like I said, I'm working on brand. I hope my brand takes off. Okay. And then indeed I can bring in other products. Ideally, I'd like other people, to sell products through me on a retail stand.
Right.
In a retail. So I know a lot of you guys are doing wholesale. And obviously I'm a buyer from Alibaba wholesale, but I'm on the retail side. So I hope to bring other wholesalers into my market, which I'm trying to brand and sell other people's products.
Lee, are you signed up with RangeMe yet? Have you ever heard of RangeMe?
I have not. I'm taking notes. What is RangeMe? I think we all need to know.
They're affiliated with a company called ECRM. Their sister brother, ECRM, owns RangeMe. Sign up for them because they're a platform that you could sell your product to 50 vendors that can review, like Walgreens, CVS, and so forth, that would review your, you know, your product you have and then notify you if they're interested in your product. But definitely something, it's a huge branding as well as Alibaba, of course, but it really does get your product out there. It's huge. So I would sign up. I think they're $1,000 a year, well worth the money.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
So much knowledge being passed here. Jonah, let's talk again. I don't think I asked you this because my head is spinning with all the great knowledge going back and forth, but to the mature buyer, you have John and Daniel in your office. These guys are selling millions. They've been there, done that. Anything that you could tell them they should know, again, Alibaba.com platform, or just overall, Jonah, your expertise that Daniel and John should know, hey guys, here's how you can grow even more. Anything that you have for them that they should know from what, because you're seeing it from a different perspective. This is what you do day in and day out, seeing all these sellers and buyers. What should they know that others are doing?
I think that what they should know is, you know, putting in the legwork goes a long way on our platform. So, you know, building out your mini site, ensuring that it does a proper job portraying your brand image. These are global buyers. So any sort of brand recognition that you might have in the United States, unless you're, you know, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and McDonald's, these buyers coming in from different regions of the countries likely are not going to know your brand or your product. So, you know, your online storefront is essentially, that is your booth at a trade show. So the type of flyers and imagery you use to portray your products and your brand, that is going to be super important to ensure that global buyers understand what you're selling. And then from there, really utilizing our search marketing tool. So back to the trade show analogy, you know, you spend more money if you want prime placement when everybody walks into the trade show. If you spend on advertising on Alibaba, you have the ability to have that prime storefront at a trade show. And then from there, you know, John touched on this earlier, but really looking at the data of your marketing initiatives rather than just pushing ads, that will give you the opportunity to control who comes into your booth. You know, we've all worked trade shows before where the high school student comes into your booth and takes up a half an hour of your time who wants a job at Alibaba.
Or takes all of your tchotchkes, Jonah. I mean, they just scoop all your Alibaba t-shirts that you paid $3 for and put it in their bag. Sorry, go ahead, Jonah. Continue.
No, you bring up a good point. You bring up the t-shirt again. We're definitely getting you a t-shirt after this. But yeah, the high school student comes into your booth, takes up a half an hour of your time. You spend $10,000 on a booth, you're hoping to generate sales. So by utilizing our digital trade show, our search marketing tools, you control who comes into your booth at your digital trade show. So kind of moral of the story, a little bit of work goes a long way on Alibaba.com.
Powerful. And John, I'm going to turn this question to you. Somebody asked, and thank you for the question, Linda, about the loading and maintenance of product data or data on Alibaba. One, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I know Daniel and John probably know what that means, and Lee as well. So John, unpack that as brief as you can, high level. What does that mean overall? Can you help? What does it mean and why is it important if it is?
I can tell you what it means. I can't tell you how they do it.
Okay. Daniel or Jonah will answer that, but what does it mean?
Definitely can tell you, but it's really just like, I've got all this product. I've possibly got it in a spreadsheet. How hard is it to upload that spreadsheet data to the platform? And then, of course, you know, all of my images and put all that together so that I can put together a cohesive store or shopping experience for the buyer.
Yeah, and before Daniel chimes in, I do want to make it known that, you know, Daniel's success, he has generated a lot of sales before we improved the back end and a lot of these features. So when I mentioned legwork, Daniel did a lot of legwork. Since Daniel's been on the platform, we've made a lot of product improvements. So I believe when Daniel started loading products, we didn't have bulk inventory upload and download. That is a new feature that we have today, where you have to map over certain properties from your Excel or CSV file. You can then upload that into Alibaba. Daniel did a lot of legwork to get his product into the system. So a lot of the new features that exist today, such as bulk upload, did not exist when Daniel set up his storefront.
Poor Daniel.
Yeah.
So today, Daniel, how is that? Tell us about it.
Well, no, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say exactly. I mean, I only use 10% of Alibaba's features. I mean, I'm kind of like old school. You know, I'm hard. You know, I'm an old. Well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks type of thing. You know, it's hard for me. But you know, I'm just now testing all sorts of different things. I have a full-time girl. All she does is upload SKUs. I don't do any, you know, loading, maintenance of products. She manually uploads the products because I want to make sure the description is extremely clean images are clean. Sometimes when you do these hard data uploads, you just don't get the quality, you know, and I'm not saying Alibaba doesn't, but, you know, I've done Google stuff and Bing stuff where you have these huge uploads and it's sloppy. It just doesn't look right. So I'm old fashioned. I'd rather do it right, do it slow. That's me. It's a personal thing. And just now, after what, 5 years of being on, 4 years being, I'm just now testing your SEO stuff and your pay-per-click stuff. And so, I mean, I'm pretty excited just to see how that goes. So.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I'm going to tell Jonah, Daniel, and John a secret about Lee. Lee claims she's not technical. So Lee, to that point about, can you talk to us about, I think this is kind of a cousin to data. How is it for you? Is it frustrating or not? And not Alibaba.com specifically, but just overall, just the technical aspects, you know, clicking and all those kind of things. Because you're a marketing background. You have a whole body of work you've done outside of this, but now you're e-commerce. Can you give us some insight into that and what you've learned, how you've grown or not?
Have I grown? Yes, because my sons have gotten older and they do it all for me now. I call, honey, and
so
they load my it's a team, right?
Yeah.
They load my videos for me, you know, so I have a videographer. I find experts, right? So I like to be the dumbest person in the room. Yes. That's my favorite room. So I have outsourced all these little things to do for me. And if it came to something like upload, like Daniel, you're talking about the uploads, I would find the guy who's the expert who could do it all at once, because I know I couldn't. Yeah. But using Alibaba specifically, I mean, just from a tech zero standpoint, again, as a buyer and as a seller, very easy to use. Because, all right, tell the secret. I think, Jonah, there's like a translate app that you don't even know that's behind the scenes. So if you're selling something from the US abroad, I mean, there's still a little bit of a language error because you get the translation thing. Sure. But don't you have the secret language app, don't you?
We do. There's actually a YouTube video of me testing it out at the Consumer Electronics Show last year. We have live translation services. So, you know, being that we are a platform, a lot of the orders through Alibaba.com, there's custom work required. And you need to make sure that the manufacturer or supplier completely understands where you want that cooling pack to be scarf. So live translation services, through Alibaba, you can do a video conference or even chat, and it will translate the language. So either through the video conference or through text to the seller and buyer's native language. And that happens in real time.
See, how cool is that for technology, Ramon?
Way cool. I think I'm going to get that for my house. I don't know if John needs it in his household or Daniel, whoever our household or the people we love. You know, it's like, it's great. Are you listening to me? Listen, before we end this discussion, I think I'd like to give you all a minute to summarize any last minute tips or things. But I mean, listen, e-commerce is challenging. It's difficult. It's not easy, as it were. But I think for sure, compared to when Daniel and John were starting, and Jonah's been in this, it's easier today. And I think that what I've learned in this discussion is that there's some strategies you can do. And we're going to be having a summary of this whole discussion on Smart Hustle, sharing it out with all of you, kind of a little guide, some things I even heard offline. But maybe Lee, Daniel, John, and then Jonah, I'll give you last word. Lee, any one or two things I didn't ask, any words of encouragement or whatever you want to add as we kind of come to the downward slope of today's discussion?
Yeah, words of advice. Go for it, expecting that you're going to fall on your face a few times, because you are. But you keep looking for experts, right? You keep watching these webinars. I'm already taking notes here. Like, I've learned from this. These are great. So go for it, but keep asking questions. There are resources out there, right? There are the Alibabas, the DHL, the shipping DHL, which I've talked to them. They're great. It's out there. You have to look. Like, don't try to learn it yourself. Find somebody or an app or a website that knows how to do it and learn from them. Learn from the experts.
And that's Lee Hayes with Cool Me Scarf. Definitely check out what she's doing. We'll have it in the show notes. Daniel, what can we learn from you? How do you want to wrap this up? Summarize. What's that thing you want to say?
I just learned how animated you are, Ramon. It's so colorful. I love it. I love it. It's
Thank
like,
you.
I already drank my coffee. But look, I'm just going to add to what Lee Hayes said. Really, honestly, it's freelancing. You know, I went the first time I got into the business, I went to an event called Armin Van. It was a convention in Atlanta, and it was all about freelancing. You know, if you're not an expert, freelance it out. And I was like, God, that is so cool. And then of course there were sites like Upwork.com, which I recommend, and Fiverr. If you're not an expert in the field, or you don't enjoy doing something, you freelance it out. You hire it out and you focus on your strengths. And that's really the most important. Focus on what you're good and just persevere, because in the beginning you will fail, You know, it's going to take time, especially on Alibaba, to start generating money, make sales. Don't just give up. You know, I'd say 95% of people give up. You got to just stick to it. You know, stick to the fundamentals, build your SKUs, build your bundles, and the money will come in. So,
I love it. Daniel, thank you so much. John, what do you want to leave us with today?
I want to leave you with, you know, test organic. Test in the organic space, see what's got a little bit of traction, and then you take the paid advertising and you support your organic results with your paid, and not the other way around, you know? So organic is free. You can test all kind of great stuff. When you see something that's really getting some traction, that's when you throw money in at it.
That's powerful. And you guys can find more information about John Lawson at johnlawson.com, and Daniel Rosenfield. You can look him up with Totally Products. And if you just add any,
TotallyProductsCatalog.com is the
okay, great. TotallyProductsCatalog.com. You can find him, and I can connect more with him if those who want to reach out to any of our panelists. And Jonah with Alibaba.com. What's the one thing you want to bring out that people should take away today? And we'll have a lot more, of course, in the show notes. But on this live discussion, what's that nugget that you want to bring out that we should know, Jonah?
So I want to leave everybody today with some stats. So we have 20 million active buyers on Alibaba.com. Every e-commerce company has a different definition for active buyer. 20 million active buyers who submit order requests on a monthly basis.
Wow.
We have 200,000 sellers on our platform. Substantially less than 1% of our sellers are US-based businesses. So we have 20 million active buyers. The number one request from our top buyers is more US supply. And today, less than 1% of our sellers are US-based businesses.
That's a big deal. That's a big, big number. And John, how can people find out more about Alibaba.com? That's kind of a joke. Alibaba.com. So, but listen, Daniel Rosenfield, Totally Products, thank you so much for being here with us. Lee Hayes, Cool Me Scarf, thanks for being with us. And John Lawson, thank you so much. Mr. Colderize himself, thanks for being with us. And Jonah Mandel, thank you for spending time and sharing with us about the Alibaba platform. To the attendees who joined us live today, thank you for the questions. To those who will be watching this in the weeks coming afterwards, thank you for the time to be with us today. And my name is Ramon Ray of Smart Hustle Media. And panelists, I wish there was a green room, but I'm just going to say thanks for being here. There's no way to go back to a green room and catch up and talk, but thank you all so much, and we can get together by email or catch up if we want to. Jonah, John, Daniel, and Lee. So thank you all.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.